All right, Hog fans. All right. Everyone's talking about Ron Holland. Everyone's feeling good about Ron Holland coming to Arkansas. So is he actually coming to Arkansas, though? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday, and hopefully everybody had a great weekend, as there's so many things to get to here today, and so little time to really do it and to really have fun with it too. But man, what a weekend. What a weekend. I was actually enjoying the outdoors a lot and, got my mind right. And there was a lot of things that happened over the weekend that is some positives, actually, because I felt like last week I had a few negatives. But we'll get into all of that because, once again, it's football, basketball, baseball. But basketball is the big one because everybody is sitting here talking about Ron Holland and the possibilities of Ron Holland coming to Arkansas. And it's always one of those things to where there's smoke, there's fire. And it certainly seems like what's going on right now is legitimate smoke where there might be some legitimate fire for Ron Holland. Now, this is kind of a crazy thing because, as we know, Ron Holland is a 5-star player and he is an incredible athlete. And in fact, I think it's best put in the way 24/7 Sports puts him, where they say he's a very athletic, not just vertically, but in the way he covers the floor, thrives in the open court, can move laterally, and his speed. While the team versatile defender gets thrown around easy these days, Holland actually embodies it. Given that, along with his size and shooting potential, he has a chance to evolve into the modern-day big wing that is so coveted at the highest levels. His overall skill set needs to continue to develop, particularly as a handler where he can be guilty of trying to do too much, but there is a foundation to build off even as a passer. He has to find a balance between competing and with an edge and letting his emotions get the better of him. But when he's playing with the motor that he showed during FIBA this past summer, he's extremely impactful. And that's just one person's opinion. But apparently 24/7 Sports felt so much more confident about their opinion of him and the type of player he is that they re-ranked him and moved him up to where he is the number 2 player in the entire country. Number 2. I've seen some people even have him at number 1. And it's where he's just a player that is a game changer and can be a much better fit and a much easier player to count on and to develop and to get him going and everything that could just be absolutely perfect. He's about 6'8", about 200 pounds. So he's just got a lot of elements, a lot of pieces to him to where he could be a player that not only gets drafted really high in the NBA draft, but could be a player that just makes a huge difference for whatever team that he ends up on. So here's the thing. We all felt like when it started going about to where he decommitted from Texas that Arkansas was going to have a great chance at it, right? And we all started feeling, okay, this might actually work. This might actually be something that gets put together and might actually make some sense. But then last week we saw, at least from Jeff Goodman, that it was being talked about that it was either between Arkansas or between going to the G League. So, okay, 50-50 shot at it. And I went through my whole thing about why I feel like going to college, especially at a place like Arkansas, is so much more beneficial now and would be better now than going to the G League. I went into all of that. So it kind of died down. And then some things started building up. Saw rivals on the Razorback side of things too. Jackson Collier, who covers basketball, he got people talking because he's went out there and did forecasting for where Ron Holland was going to end up. And on Sunday, he says that he's forecasting Arkansas. I have talked to people that I know and that I trust. And, you never want to say it's a certainty. But the ones that I talked to said, it's probably going to happen. It looks like it's going to happen. It looks like it's correct. Anything can change, as we all know. And we'll talk about things that do change in a bit. But from the people that I know, the people I respect, and the people that even outside the state of Arkansas, from what they've told me, it seems like that Ron Holland is a guy that's going to be playing at Arkansas next year. Now, until he comes out and makes it official, I'm going to wait, until I start popping champagne bottles. But because this is the topic that everybody wants to hear about and everybody wants me to talk about, that's why I'm bringing it up and that's why I'm discussing it right now. So I feel good about it. In fact, last week I felt like it was a 50-50 shot, and I really did. Now I'm getting up to like an 85-15. Like I feel like it's 85% of a chance he comes to Arkansas. I'm feeling very strong about it. And who knows, maybe even as the days go on, I'll feel even better about it too. But I'm shook. Like I'm shook about this, and I can't fathom just the team that this Razorback squad is going to put out on the court next year, assuming that they get Ron Holland to be a part of it. In fact, I saw that if you look at, again, different rankings, different platforms, they look at things differently. But I looked at what Arkansas was doing with the recruiting and with the transfer portal. And we know about recruiting rankings and team rankings and everything. Well, right now on 24/7 Sports, they have Arkansas with the overall ranking, including their high school class and their transfer class. Right now, they're number 10 in the country. Right now. I believe that if they add Ron Holland, they will probably jump into the top 5. And if they add another guy to the mix, maybe a Grant Nelson, somebody like that, we'll see, then there's a very good chance that they could jump into the top 3. And there's still some teams that are in front of them. Team like Kentucky, I think, has the number 1 class overall. And, there's a lot of things that can happen and can change. But my point is that Arkansas will have an entire squad next year, a new squad next year that will have so much stupid talent that it won't even be funny. We talked about it last week on the podcast about the amount of talent that Eric Musselman is going to have this year. Is it going to be the number 1 most talented roster he's ever had at Arkansas? Yeah, and I believed it last week. And now with the news of, or at least the rumors about Holland, I'm starting to believe it again. But you just think about that team that will be on the court. Because again, we still have to wait on some things. But that team that's going to get put out on the court, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then you throw in, like, for instance, last year, like people were saying, John, you said it last year, how much talent was going to be on the team and how great they were going to be. And it definitely was struggles. And I'll admit, yeah. But here's the thing. Last year, it was when you were bringing in those true McDonald's All-American freshmen. You had 3 of them. We know that Nick Smith didn't play so much, but those were the guys that you were going to have to rely on big time for the team to have success. And then on top of that, you had some other transfers that were good, but you didn't really know about how good they would be. Lost Trevin Brazil for the year. And also, you brought in 3 additional freshmen. People forget about this. You brought in 3 additional freshmen who rode the bench and didn't play at all. So essentially, you had 6 freshmen on that team, half the team, essentially, and that was problematic. Like that you need more than that. You need experience for that. But now you jump started to this year and look at it from this particular season. And again, this is all assuming that Ron Holland is coming to Arkansas. You jump to it and you start thinking, okay, they got guys, right? They got 5 stars. They're going to have 3 5-stars, 2 of them McDonald's All-Americans with Holland and with Bayfall. They have Trevin Brazil coming back and Jalen Graham coming back. They have a transfer portal of guards that's just insanely talented. And some of the guys are NBA caliber players, especially if they can take that next step. There's a possibility that Walsh and or Devo, more than likely Walsh would come back, maybe, but who knows with the roster management of how it's going on now. And you just put all those pieces together and you're like, okay, not only is this a next level talented roster that has some of the best transfers coming in as well as the best high school class like combo that you could get, but the thing that I love about it the most is that the freshmen that you'll have on this team, folks, the 3 freshmen are going to be 5-stars. 2 of them are McDonald's All-Americans. The rest of the team are experienced upperclassmen. So you won't have to rely only on those true freshmen to carry the load for you. It's not like you're going to sit there and be like, well, our season's going to be made or broken by someone like Ron Holland or someone like Bay Fall. Like, you're not having to sit there and say, you guys have to get to the expectation that we all have for you if we want to have success. It's not that way. What it is, though, is it's going to be a bunch of core guys like the transfers who have already proven in college basketball, but they are high-level dudes. Already have proven it in high-level college basketball that they're those dudes. And you have a guy like Trevin Brazile, who is a stud beyond belief. We all know how good he is, and he's only going to be better next year. You have experienced guys, you have senior guys, you have guys that have played 3, 4, 5 years even. And you can count on those guys where the true freshmen, these studs, these 5-star players, those are just going to be the guys that they're the icing on the cake. You're not going to have to rely on guys that's never played college basketball before to save you or to bring you or to give you the success. You already are going to have that in spades with transfers. The transfers are going to be the guys. The freshmen around them, those 5 stars, they just have to complement them. They just have to find their own way in the game. And there's going to be plenty of competition to push them that way too. So it's not official, at least at the time of the recording of this podcast. I'm always going to have to hold out reservations, but I believe that if, just putting a gun to my head today, I believe Ron Holland's going to play at Arkansas next year. Things change, we all know, but I feel pretty confident about it. And I can't wait to see him on the court when that actually happens. We'll talk a little football because there's some other recruiting news going on with football that was actually kind of funny here in just a second. But folks, hey, FanDuel going on right now. And we know that with the NBA playoffs, there's a lot of fun stuff to be had when it comes to FanDuel and the NBA. New customers can get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when it comes to bonus bets with FanDuel. That's right, $1,000 if your first bet doesn't win. And we know with all the different playoff games, there's always a lot of fun parlays and spreads and money lines and all that stuff that you can choose from. So it's the place. No better place to get playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So last week, we talked about the decommitment of Var'Keyes Gumms, the tight end out of North Texas, that he was coming to Arkansas, and everyone was so pumped up because it was a position of need that Arkansas desperately needed. And he was a big-time player that so many schools were after, but Arkansas was able to get him. And then he decommitted. And it was like, why? Like, it's only been 2 weeks, roughly. And then he decommits. He takes a picture that he's visiting Cal. It's like all these things. You're like, why? What's happening here? What's going on? And he tried to figure out exactly where the problem came into play. And all we heard was that according to sources and people that talked to him, they asked him, like, hey, did you decommit from Arkansas? And he goes, yes. So I was like, well, that's unfortunate. Okay. And we talked about maybe the reasons behind it. Didn't any of them make sense? Anyways, that doesn't matter anymore because now Var'Keyes Gumms has officially recommitted to Arkansas. He reversed his course and pledged to the Razorbacks. Again, he's a 6'3", 235-pound tight end. And then he even had this quote, according to hogsports.com. Says, I always loved Arkansas. Just was seeing my options before I just made a final life decision. And come to find out, I'm all in with y'all, woo pig. That's what he said. He was a second-team freshman All-American last year. He's first-team All-Conference USA. And he is, 6 starts, had 34 receptions, 458 yards, 5 touchdowns. And now he's 14th player to go to Arkansas out of the portal. So this was kind of a weird thing. And just to be honest, it was just like, okay. And some people had some pretty interesting reactions to this. Not everybody, but some people were just confused. They were upset. They were mad. They were like, okay, hey, you in or you out? Like, this kid's already a diva and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. In which I thought he had some fun with it because he was like, put it up on Twitter. He's like, man, I love a passionate fan base, which you all have, which I thought was kind of funny. So, but the point is, when I saw that he recommitted, you know what my first reaction was? Awesome. Great. I love it. I don't care about what happened. I don't care about what he said that he was going to do or not going to do, or that he committed and decommitted. I don't care about any of that. He's a phenomenal player, and he recommitted to Arkansas, and he's all in on Arkansas. Hopefully it stays that way. But I had no issue with the way that he handled himself at all. And so some people, I think, were just kind of upset because of maybe the lack of decision making or whatever it is. And that's fine. Like, you can do whatever you want and be upset if you want. But I guess my approach is Sam Pittman. If Sam Pittman still wants him and Sam Pittman's still fine with him recommitting to Arkansas, then I am too. Like, that's how I look at it. I think that if you're a player of his magnitude and of his caliber, and, you know, kids make mistakes. I'm not saying that like his was a mistake either. I'm just saying that like he's a guy that, like he said, I wanted to just see my option before I made a final life decision. And, you know, he stuck with it. And he's like, okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm coming back to Arkansas. Good enough for me. If it's good enough for Sam Pittman, if it's good enough for the coaching staff, it's good enough for me. And so welcome back. You know, it's kind of like like, maybe I'm looking at it too in depth, but I'm like, look at it from like your kid's perspective. I mean, it's like if your kids make a mistake, or if they're like, hey, I'm going to, you know, go to this place and, you know, do this. And you're like, okay, great. And then they're like, actually, no, I'm not going to. And then they come back and say, no, actually, I'm coming home. Anyways, it's like, okay, yeah, like, welcome back. Like, you're going to the prodigal son type of thing. Except it was only like a week, less than a week, like a few days. So I'm fine with it. Like, I'm, again, if it's good enough for Sam Pittman, and he's a great player, and Arkansas needs help at tight end. So I'm excited about it. Glad to have him back. Hope he ends up having a great year for Arkansas. Hope he ends up doing big things. But just a funny little thing that can never be easy. Can never be something that's just quick and to the point. But hey, Arkansas, Sam Pittman, football team, got it done once again. And hopefully they add some more pieces to the transfer portal that are going to be some big-time players as well. So we'll talk a little baseball and the sweep coming up next here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, Razorback Baseball. Isn't it funny that this is like the third topic because there's so many other things that were going on, but it's true. Arkansas plays Mississippi State in Starkville, and Arkansas sweeps Mississippi State. Swept them. And really, the games weren't all that close, but Arkansas just kept getting after it, man, and kept pouring it on and kept making plays. It's just, I know I keep talking about it, but it is incredible what this team is doing. I mean, the players that were not available to play this weekend, like you didn't have Stovall, you didn't have Wagner, you didn't have Josenberger. Like you're having to throw some guys out there, like your pitchers and the injuries that have happened, like all of that stuff going on. And you swept an SEC West team. Now, granted, Mississippi State is not good. We knew that they weren't great, especially had a high ERA. And for the first game, defensively, Mississippi State looked like, you know, in the movie Major League when they're playing in spring training games and they all keep running into each other all the time when they're trying to catch foul balls and everyone's booing them and laughing at them. That's kind of what it was. So I'm not going to try to sit here and just say that Mississippi State's some phenomenal big-time team. Like, they have some issues. But credit where credit is due. You go onto the road in the SEC West and you win a series and you sweep a series. And now Arkansas is sitting at 36-12, 17-7 in SEC play with 6 games left of the regular season, and being South Carolina at home and then on the road to Vanderbilt. 2 high-quality teams, but 2 very beatable teams. And the best thing about this all is that Arkansas right now is tied with Vanderbilt atop the SEC standings overall. And also, Arkansas is the number 1 team in the SEC West as of right now. They passed LSU because LSU lost the series to Auburn. And Arkansas has a half-game lead over them because of that fact, because that dumb game that got canceled that LSU couldn't play earlier in the year against South Carolina. Incredible. Just incredible. And they have guys that have just stepped up. Brady Tygart looked really good. I love the fact that he's getting back to his health. Kendall Diggs had a phenomenal weekend. How about Brady Slavens, too? hitting home runs in every game. The dude was killing it. And in fact, I was looking at Diggs and his numbers. He went 6 of 11 with 10 RBIs over the weekend. Just destroying them. Absolutely destroying them. For Sunday's game, McLaughlin went 3 for 3, so he was great. Jace Bofrin was great. I just couldn't say enough about him. Hunter Holland did a pretty solid job overall. I know he's been dealing with injuries and whatnot, but I think he did fine. Hagen Smith did great. It's great. It's awesome. And it's just awesome to continue to see them do so many great things and continue to get better and have guys step up. So we'll see, because the South Carolina series is a big one. And it's your last home series, at least of the regular season. And you have 6 games left. So I'm looking at it this way. Yeah, I would love Arkansas to win both series. I think everybody would. I'd love them to go 6-0. But let's be realistic about it. It's kind of like, okay, what do they need to do to officially host? Like, be a national seed? Well, I believe in the final 6 games, if you only won 2 of them, I think you're still a national seed. I don't think they'll just win 2, but if they went 2 and 4 the rest of the way, I believe still they'd be a national seed. So anything above that, they'll be a national seed. I think if they get swept in one of these series and then they lose the other series too, then that might bounce them out a little bit. We'll see what the other teams in front of them do. But considering that some of the teams in front of Arkansas did not fare so well, like LSU lost a series, Florida struggled, like Vanderbilt has struggled. Like, there's been some ups and downs, but I just believe that Arkansas is in a driver's seat right now, to where I'd be hard pressed to think they don't get a national seed, as long as they handle their business. And 100%, if they beat South Carolina in this series this weekend, they're hosting. They're a national seed, no questions asked. And nobody's going to want to do it that way. I know Dave Van Horn's not going to do it that way, but I still believe that if Arkansas was able to get to the SEC tournament knowing they have a national seed in the bag, just throw your freshmen. Just get out of there. 0-2 and barbecue and come back to Fayetteville, get ready for the regional. SEC tournament does not matter. Do not need to win it. Just keep everyone healthy. I don't even care. Throw out take the walk-ons out there. I do not care. Just get out of there healthy, because we know getting healthy is the most important thing. But kudos to Dave Van Horn. Kudos to this team. And kudos to everything that they're doing right now. It's so exciting. And I put out a tweet. It kind of reminded me. It's like I don't know whether to be excited or whether nervous because of how great things are going, just being as a Razorback fan. But it's like my dad would always say, I don't know whether to crap or go blind. I guess I'll just close one eye and fart. And, words to the wise. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to enjoy the ride, and hopefully it ends up going really well. But shout out to the Razorback baseball team and the guys getting it done and stepping up for all those injured players as well. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.